So today I'm going to talk about Microstrategy. If you haven't heard about this company, they are one of the top holders of Bitcoin, and they just bought $147 million more on top of what they already have, which was around 152,000 Bitcoin. So they have now raised their holdings to 158,000 Bitcoin, and they had their last purchase with an average price of over 27,000. And with it being a public company, obviously there are public filings that have to be made with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and they're available for any one of us to see, particularly their shareholders in the stock, which is publicly traded on major exchanges. So MicroStrategy, which is a business intelligence firm and major Bitcoin investor, is sending a bullish signal in that they have bought more. But MicroStrategy has been bullish basically from the beginning when they first started collecting Bitcoin, which I believe was around the end of 2020. Their now former CEO, Michael Saylor, has now become basically a Bitcoin evangelist and is talking around the world and is all over the web talking about Bitcoin and the value of Bitcoin and why he believes that it is the future of money. So you can see here he is the co-founder and now the current executive chairman of MicroStrategy, and he sent out a message on X on September 29th and on September 25th to announce a 5,445 BTC purchase by his company, and now they hold over 158,000 Bitcoin. They are now getting closer and closer to holding 1% of all Bitcoin in that will ever be in existence. That amount is 21 million. So if you see here, 210,000 would be 1% of 21 million. And if they now have 158,245 Bitcoin, they are 51,755 Bitcoin away from holding 1% of the entire available Bitcoin supply, which would be tremendous because if Bitcoin gets to the levels that many prognosticators are expecting it to get to, right now it's currently trading at around $500 billion market cap. Some are saying that it'll reach to the market cap of gold, which is around $10 trillion. And then some say that it will surpass that of gold because it is a more reliable, secure, easier to transact and move in being a so-called digital gold. So people believe that there could be a time where Bitcoin is upwards of $1 million per coin. Obviously, that remains to be seen. That could be a long ways away if that ever even happens. But in the meantime, Michael Saylor and the MicroStrategy team has decided to continue to build upon their holdings of Bitcoin and are now at 158,000 plus Bitcoin. So if we go here and check out MicroStrategy, it is considered a major Bitcoin proxy. And we've talked a little bit about MicroStrategy in the past and Bitcoin proxies. So those who do not hold Bitcoin on their own, because there is still some friction, not as much because you can buy Bitcoin on very popular exchanges like Robinhood, for example, or you can go to Coinbase. And then depending on your brokerage, you can also go to Fidelity and Charles Schwab and be able to buy Bitcoin and Ethereum and a few other Bitcoin and Ethereum trusts in your IRA accounts. But if you go back to MicroStrategy, people look at it as a proxy because of the fact that they own so much Bitcoin. So right now, as you can see, the market cap of MicroStrategy is $4.45 billion. So if we think about how much Bitcoin they currently own now, which is, we'll just say 158,000, and multiply that, currently Bitcoin has been fluctuating in that $24,000 to $27,000 range for several weeks now. So we'll just say times 26,000. Their current holdings are worth over $4.1 billion. So if you look at the worth of the company just on their Bitcoin coin holdings, excuse me, they are trading right at around what they own in Bitcoin. And so a lot of people believe that as Bitcoin continues to go up in price, say one day it goes back to all-time highs, which is about 2 to 3x from here, then you can see that MicroStrategy then has a path to go upwards and 2 to 3x from here as well, depending on how high Bitcoin goes. So if we look at it compared to Bitcoin and the S&P 500 year to date, a lot of times because of the speculation, MicroStrategy can actually move a lot faster than Bitcoin. So as you can see here, year to date, MicroStrategy has basically doubled the return on investment than Bitcoin over the last 10 months and has 10 times more than the S&P 500. So if you put your money into MicroStrategy at the beginning of the year, you have doubled your investment, but it is still very speculative. It's very volatile. As you can see here, it had a major rise up in around that July, August timeframe, and it has now pulled back a lot since then. So definitely something that you may want to consider if you are interested in Bitcoin proxies and you're not comfortable with owning Bitcoin on your own, especially since we still haven't had the regulatory clarity that we want, just generally speaking, with relations to cryptocurrency. A lot of people are looking to MicroStrategy. Of course, we are not offering any financial advice. We are not financial advisors. We're just presenting you information, hopefully in an entertaining and educational way, and hopefully it'll pique your interest to learn a little bit more about this fascinating and emerging market. As you can see here, we have a list of the public companies that own Bitcoin, and MicroStrategy is there at the top. This has recently been updated with their current holdings of 158,245 Bitcoin. Next behind that are a number of miners as well as Tesla. As you can see here at number 3, they sold a good chunk of Bitcoin. I believe it was either earlier this year or the end of last year, but they still have a significant holding at over 10,000 Bitcoin. And then you see other mining companies like Riot and Marathon Digital, and then Galaxy Digital Holdings is an investment firm. Block, also known as Square, which owns Cash App. Their founder, Jack Dorsey, has been a major Bitcoin proponent, and they've been in Bitcoin for a long time now, and they have over 8,000 BTC. So you can go here and find out all the different companies, including all the other mining firms, as to how much Bitcoin they've been able to mine and how much they currently have on their balance sheet. So if we go here, who is investing in MicroStrategy? Because a lot of retail investors are now starting to see the great opportunities with return on investment when it comes to MicroStrategy, as I just showed you in the comparison chart between MicroStrategy, Bitcoin, and the S&P 500. If you look at this spreadsheet here, it shows you some of the top shareholders in MicroStrategy. And a lot of people look to what are the major institutions buying, not just when it relates to cryptocurrencies, for example, but just in general when it comes to major stock purchases. A lot of people look to see what the Warren Buffetts are buying and what some of the other well-known investors and hedge funds are buying, because a lot of times they have access to information that retail investors do not have access to, or they have access to the information before we do. So if you look here, you see Vanguard, which is a $1 trillion plus asset manager, is one of the top holders at 8.4% of all of MicroStrategy ownership, stock ownership. You also see Fidelity, you see Morgan Stanley, Invesco. I know BlackRock is also another investor. So these are major companies and major brokerages that have decided to invest funds in MicroStrategy, and most of it is because of the fact because of their Bitcoin exposure. So we just want to make sure that we stay posted, see what happens with MicroStrategy as Bitcoin continues to make its move. A lot of people are predicting that 2024 will be the year that Bitcoin will start to see some massive gains after the halving event, which is going to happen approximately April of 2024, when the mining rewards are cut in half. And so Bitcoin and the supply with the demand, there will be a bit of a squeeze. So that usually tends to cause Bitcoin to go up in price. So past performance is not indicative of future performance, but it definitely can be something that we can look at as an indication as what could happen in the future. So if we go here to casebitcoin.com, you can see what the return of Bitcoin has been compared to traditional assets. And Bitcoin, as many of us know, if you don't know, was created in 2008. The white paper, I should say, was published in 2008, and the first Bitcoin transaction was in 2009. So it's now in its 14th year. And as you can see here, compared to the return on investment from its first year to now year 14, look at what I mean, it's pretty ridiculous when you think about it, because it was like less than a penny at the time. So even if you got in a few years ago, let's say 4 or 5 years ago, it still is up tremendously compared to assets like gold and the S&P 500, which are some of the benchmarks that people look to when they're trying to find return on their investment. And if you look at Bitcoin versus gold and the S&P 500 related to compound annual growth, their compound annual growth rate, you can also see that Bitcoin outperforms and outshines gold and the S&P 500 basically every year of existence except for one. So it's still very speculative. As you can see, equities, gold has been around for hundreds of years. Equity has been traded, stocks have been traded for a couple hundred years now. So these things have been around for a very long time. So it's still very, very early. We have no idea what the future of Bitcoin will be. But up to this point in time, it has outperformed these major benchmarks by a tremendous amount. So you can definitely find out a little bit more about the yields of Bitcoin by going to websites like this and many others. There are lots of information. There's lots of information out there regarding Bitcoin. So here we're at the bitcoindollarcostaverage.com website, and this is just a example of how you can learn about dollar cost averaging. You can use this concept and investment strategy across many different investment products, but just giving Bitcoin as an example, you can play around with the different dates here. Let's say that you were able to do $10, just say $10 per month over the last 6 years into Bitcoin. You can see that you would have spent $760 during that 6 year time frame. And if you did $10 per month, every month, you would have acquired over zero point 0.07 Bitcoin, and the value of that is over double at over $2,000. And that's just by putting $10 every month into Bitcoin for the last 6 years, I should say. So who's to say what's going to happen in the next 6 years? But this is just an example of the power of dollar cost averaging. And here it kind of describes and give you a little bit more information as to how you can put your dollars to work for you. It's one of the most popular investment strategies for people who just want to set and forget it, because a lot of times it's about time in the market and not trying to time the market and timing the market, because it can be very difficult to know when you're at the bottom of a particular asset and when to sell at the top of a particular asset. So a lot of people choose to dollar cost average, and it basically is giving you an average over a specific period of time. And depending on the asset that you decide to invest in, it could be a worthwhile investment, because you can see gains like this with something like Bitcoin. So once again, we are not financial advisors. This is just for informational purposes only. Thank you so much for watching. We hope you learned a little bit something today. And we look forward to linking up with you soon on the network chain. In the meantime, take care. You can check us out on Instagram and X. We post there nearly every day. Take care. Thanks again for watching. Bye-bye.